Welcome, everybody, to the spooky side of games. Halo franchise is one of the most popular and beloved franchises in all of gaming. Love it or hate it, you cannot deny the impact it has had on the gaming industry. Halo has an extremely complicated and detailed lore. Many popular novels are based in the Halo universe. Today, we're going to be taking a look at that distant roar you heard while exploring that Covenant ship, that strange shadow you saw while investigating those dead Marines, the hellish creatures you fought in the dark and ominous swamps of Halo. That's right, today we'll be talking about the Flood. When you first encountered the Flood, you may forget what game you were playing entirely. The strange, deformed look and zombie-like behavior of the Flood turns Halo into less of a sci-fi shooter and more of a survival horror. If you are unaware of the story and lore of Halo, you may think these disturbing creatures are completely out of place, but there's more history to them than you may think. It all began over 110,000 years ago. Humans had allied with the San Shayum, the same species as the Prophet, to form a powerful empire. The galaxy was mainly controlled by two empires, the Human and San Shayum Alliance and the Forerunner Ecumene. Everything was peaceful for the most part, until a horrific discovery was made on a distant planet. The humans had landed upon a barren, remote planet, only to discover they were not the first. Large, out-of-place ships were found. Inside, a strange powder. This extremely fine powder turned out to be the powdered remains of precursors. The precursors were a species that came long before the Forerunner. These powdered remains were thought to be harmless, so humans made the grave mistake of bringing it home. The powder seemed to have positive effects on specific animals, even improving behavior, but over time it would become apparent that this substance had a much more grim fate in mind. Hundreds of years passed without the powder showing any harmful effects, but suddenly, the animals exposed began developing horrific and disgusting growths on their bodies. Their behavior soon changed also. The parasites spread like wildfire through the animal species, eventually spreading to humans and other intelligent species. Those infected will lose control of their body and mind in a matter of seconds. Growths would protrude from their bodies, and their skin would turn a greenish-brown. Soon, they would be nothing more than another target for those trying desperately to fight off the infection. The infection started to spread not only through the planet, but through the entire galaxy, engulfing entire planets in its wake. Eventually, this horrific infection would be known as the Flood. As the Flood spread to human and Forerunner planets alike, it appeared as if there was no stopping it. Humans came up with a plan to raise Flood-controlled planets in an attempt to confine it to one area. However, the Forerunner saw this as the humans empowering the Flood and waged war on the human race. This began the legendary Human Forerunner War. This terrible war against the Flood waged on for centuries. After hundreds of years of war, it finally appeared as if the Flood epidemic was dying down. Many of the remaining humans were given a genetic modification to fight off the Flood supercell. Eventually, the Forerunner exterminated the remaining Flood, or so they thought. Though the Flood issue seemed to be dealt with, the Human Forerunner War continued. After years of fighting and countless lives lost, the humans were defeated by the Forerunner. The remaining humans were left to rebuild on Earth. The Forerunner, as a precaution against the Flood, built the Halo Rings. If activated, the rings would wipe out all life in the galaxy, ensuring the Flood would be unable to spread any further. But the Forerunner made one critical mistake. They decided to keep certain Flood specimen alive in status in some of the Halo Rings. They did this in order to conduct scientific experiments on the Flood, but as we all know, that never happened. Installation 04, which is the first Halo you play on, was one of the rings that contained Flood specimen. The Flood is mistakenly released and begins its quest for galaxy-wide domination. One of the main goals in the Halo series is to fight the Flood and try to prevent another outbreak. The Flood made a mistake when it attempted to take control of the space vessel, the Pillar of Autumn. The Master Chief detonates the ship's reactors and effectively exterminates the Flood in that area, as well as destroys Installation 04. But as we all know, the Flood will not be stopped so easily. The Flood went on to take another Halo ring, Installation 05, and even eventually move on to Earth. As the Flood spread, the Shangeli and the humans had to make a last-second decision to glass the infected areas of Earth, which means that they used multiple Covenant ships to destroy the areas of Earth with the Flood on them. The Flood had been removed from Earth, but they were still on the Halo rings. Though the Master Chief had to evade the Flood's main intelligence, the Gravemind, he was able to detonate the rings and destroy the remaining Flood. For now, it appears as if the Flood has finally been defeated, but all good things must come to an end. Thanks for watching this episode of The Spooky Side of Games. If you liked it, feel free to drop a like and maybe even subscribe for more spooky content. Stay spooky.